Wonderful. Thank you very much, Heather, for your presentation and for our other two gentlemen on the panel. You've got with us John and Glen Landsberg. Now we're going to turn to those live Q&A questions that have been popping up as people were talking. Mine are just loading at the moment. While they do that, George Wilson would like to know, you mentioned boundaries don't work. This one was put in a few minutes ago. So, Heather, I'm going to assume this is to do with your presentation. Boundaries don't work. Similarly, commercial harvesting has no effect on populations. Indeed, commercial export and recreational hunting may encourage sustainable harvesting and even intentional dispersion. I'm not sure where the question part of that, we might take that one as a comment. Bev B, who is also masquerading as Don sometimes. Heather, how will you address piglet release by recreational hunters? I understand this is a problem in some peri-urban areas.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's a problem in other areas too, not just in peri-urban areas. Look, at the moment, I think it's working with the regulators in this space to try and do what we can to manage this issue, and it is a growing issue as well. I think it's also in this, the Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment has been investing in some work looking at genomic analysis of pigs. So over time, we're actually looking to see how we can take those samples and do that analysis and actually see how connected populations are. So over time, we will hopefully be able to identify whether those pigs have come from somewhere else and catch people out.
Fantastic. Heather, still with you. Can pigs move quickly across the landscape to colonise new areas?
I think they can move, but it's a matter of how fast. So there are different home ranges depending on the size of the home range of a pig will vary depending on its location and food and water availability. But yeah, over time they may go and colonise different areas, but it won't be necessarily that information around out there about how fast that may occur. So I think yeah, that they may actually go and colonise new areas, or where there's been control programs, you may find over time pigs re-entering into that area, but it's not necessarily quick.
Okay, fantastic, Heather. And don't forget, we're taking questions as well for Glen Landsberg and John Hodgon. I'm sorry, John, I'm having trouble with your surname because
that's all right. Everybody does.
Are too close together, and we're talking about hogs, and it's really messing with my mind. Speaking of which, it's been a fairly intense couple of days with long sessions and technical disruptions. So my brain is starting to go into reverse. So George Wilson's been very kind, and he's recapped his question for me so I can understand it. His question was, does the pig plan cover the role of the commercial pig industry?
I think it acknowledges the role of the commercial pig industry, but I think that over time the market share and the size of the commercial pig industry has declined significantly, and a lot of that is in response to supply from other countries such as America going into Europe. So the size of the commercial industry has shrunk over the last 15, 20, 30 years. So right now, relying on it, it's not an option really. And the points that he raised that were raised before in terms of the issues around harvesting and therefore maintaining populations on the ground to fulfill the market remains a problem, because if in that sort of approach, we won't get to a sustained reduction in feral pig numbers over time.
Okay, fantastic. Comment from Christy for Glen, fantastic presentation. I agree to Glen, and I'm keen to know which is your favourite photograph.
Well, I couldn't make up my mind.
Okay, all right, you're having a bet each way there. Question though, staying with you, Glen, from Bruce A. Is there a cost-benefit analysis for the Earthworks?
Every property's got different features, so it's very hard to really put a cost to it. Some places you go to, and it might just be an eroded feature on the bottom of a wetland, so you might only need to fix, things 30 metres wide, and you might impact a couple of thousand hectares. So it's really evaluating each one separately. It's very hard to put a figure on it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Keep those questions coming through. I have got one waiting in the wings for Heather. And Heather, that is, do you think Hodgon will increase the acceptance and use of baiting?
Yeah, thank you. I think that Hodgon is another, a tool for the toolbox, as we say. I think that it provides people with another option to be able to control feral pigs. It's still making sure, of course, that when you're using Hodgon, as you may do when you're using 1080, is to ensure that you're actually following and doing a sufficient free feeding beforehand, so that you can actually ensure that you're getting the full group of pigs that are present in the area. So I think and the other thing too about Hodgon in comparison to 1080 is it is viewed as being more humane by the RSPCA. So I think it could help with increasing the use of baiting in pigs.
Okay, Heather, we'll come to you again in a moment, but while I go back to Glen for a moment, I was interested to know if there's any kind of synergies between your area of work and what John was giving his presentation on threatened species. And while we give you a break from answering the questions, if you could come up for one with John, that would be fantastic. So I'll come to you now, Glen. Glen, this one is from Jan. The work in the upstream properties can restore the floodplain significantly, which is a fantastic result. Does the upstream work affect availability in the downstream properties?
That's a really interesting point, and that can be a concern for some people initially. But we're finding people now. One grazer in particular, he's actually going to pay for the restoration of some work on the property above him, upstream from him, so that the water is slowed down enough for him to start to repair his property. Otherwise, there's just too much water coming too fast, with just doing too much damage. And until it's slowed a little bit on the upstream one, the people down below haven't got a hope of trying to control it quite often.
Okay. I've got a comment coming in from Bob S., who I believe to be Bob Shepherd. This is just a comment, not a question. But he wanted to say, under the previous Dalbessi agreement for lease renewal, leases could obtain an extra 10 years for a binding conservation agreement. Okay. There was a question from Tim Murphy coming back to you, Heather. Would a temporary one-off bounty on pigs, similar to the gun amnesty, prevent the results of a bounty from becoming like the results coming from America?
Look, I think that in relation to bounties, it will depend on the design of the program. It's not an area that at this point is being further investigated as part of the strategy. We're looking at the other methods for pig control here at the moment, rather than bounties. But the issue around, I could just say, the issue around incentivising land managers to keep sustained pressure on the population is a big issue. It's a matter of what that looks like.
All right, that looks like we are coming to the end of the questions that have been placed for our last speakers. Don't forget that everyone's presentations are there. Every session is being recorded, and those videos will be available to everyone who's purchased a ticket, so that if you have missed any sessions or you wanted to go back and have a look at it again, you can definitely do so and reach out to the presenter. Question from Andrew D. Cost benefit issue again. Do you think that many landholders jump to the conclusion it is too expensive? Now, I'm not sure if that's to do with pig management or erosion management or threatened species on your land. So if you let us know precisely which speaker you would like to answer your question, that would be fantastic. Andrew D, because there's at least 4 other people that like your question. I just don't quite know where to direct it. I guess each of you could tell me from your area of expertise that cost benefit. Do you think that many landholders are going to engage in what you've talked about on a cost benefit analysis?
From a threatened species point of view, I don't think so. There's probably not a lot of cost benefit. I think the benefit is more in terms of a landholder achieving something that they would like to do on their property. I think the benefit lies in, you know, if you're interested in protecting a threatened species that occurs on your property, the benefit lies in knowing that you are in fact doing that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, John. Glenn, the question was actually for you, I'm aware now. So cost benefit there?
We're finding there's so much interest in it. The vast bulk of people just want a hand with a bit of the planning. They can see that much of return in getting their country productive again. That's enough for them. Yeah. We can't deal with the level of interest, really. There's so many people wanting to get on board.
Did you have anything you wanted to add on cost benefit?
Is that for me?
It was actually for Glenn, but I was giving you an opportunity to answer if you wanted, but we might leave it there, seeing as you've done the lion's share of the questions and most of the heavy lifting. Well, that just about concludes this session on Stream 2.